don't question it anymore. It just keeps on going. So that's why I launched Leave Crosscheck, because I thought someone's got to ask them to leave. Someone's got to raise this up. And then luckily, as I was tweeting those things, I ended up finding the Chicago people doing the same thing. And we were, fellow travelers on the same path. And I was happy to see that effort. They're hitting it out of the park. I mean, they're just doing amazing things with that program. It's been thrilling to see. If I can say just a second, if you have any listeners in Kansas, because we have a different set of responsibilities because this is, paid for and run by Kansas. There is a risk of legal liability for Kansas. There's a decent chance that Kansas will be sued over this for a variety of different things. And I was able to confirm with a state rep in Kansas that I've been working with that we could be held liable. So that's another angle to take as you approach your member of Congress if you live in Kansas, to let them know, I don't want to pay for this. It's a very bad program in terms of how it's designed and the effects that it is having. And I don't want to be on the hook for the legal liability because of a badly run program. We need to end it.
Well, I'm looking right now at our stats, and 6.5% of our listening audience is in Kansas. So we're looking at you, Kansans.
Great. Yeah. Call your member of Congress and do not be surprised if they've never even heard of it. I have been astonished at the number that I have reached out to that knew next to nothing, if not exactly nothing about it. And that's no slam on them. This is not happening in a bright room with oversight and kind of proper, transparency. This is really kind of not mentioned, like the budget isn't detailed, there's not any public reporting, there's not a website, there's no statistics published, like it's very, very kind of in the dark. And so let them know, get them to ask questions, and let's drag this thing out of the dark and get rid of it.
Yeah, I think so. And we always try to bring this back to what can we do for our kids. And I think Sophie and I have pretty young kids, maybe a little bit too young to understand some of the nuances of this. Although, we talk to our 6-year-old about everything, so who knows. But if any of our listeners have, especially high school students, students who are interested in debate team or really into statistics, I think this is the kind of thing they could easily get their heads around. And it would make it pretty obvious to them, why this is so problematic. I'd really like to see some teenagers who are about to become voters get really involved in this project too.
My son is 18 and he cast his first vote yesterday.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Such a thrill. And he took it so seriously. He's in college out of state, and so he was very concerned about it getting mailed back. And I was so proud. And I've talked with him, he became a pretty effective writer in high school. So I had him editing some of the things that I'd written, and I think he popped a blood vessel over some of it. He wanted to get out his red pen. But it's been really great because, like you talked about, being able to explain to your kids and talking to them about what we're doing to make things better. It's been pretty neat to show him, this is what I'm putting my time into. It is an unequivocal thing. It is not a partisan thing. It's not an us versus them thing. It's simply bad. And we voters have the power to put an end to it. And, to my son, this is what I'm spending my time on. And it's kind of neat to get his feedback that he's appreciating seeing the articles come out. And I think in one of them I was described as a voting rights activist from Kansas. And I sent that to him, and he said I was sort of like, the scene at the end of Monsters, Inc. When the magazine comes out and Mike Wazowski has the label over him. And I was like, I'm so excited. I was so delighted. I don't necessarily need to be mentioned by name. What I'm delighted about is that this is getting headlines and eyeballs and people paying attention and getting some energy to change.
All right. Well, I think that's a good way to wrap this up. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Yes, thank you. This has been amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so delighted to have a chance to talk about it. I really, really appreciate the opportunity.
Great. And we will be working on all of our listeners who are in any state. And I think some of you who are in relatively blue states are going to be surprised to find that your state is on this list. So We will be working on you. All right. Thank you so much, Anita. And maybe we can check back in with you in about 6 months and see how we're all doing on this project.
That would be awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks for joining us today on Two Broads Talking Politics. You can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is Two Broads Talk. And you can also email us with any questions that you might have. We're also looking for advertisers, anybody with a small business who'd like to get in contact with us about advertising. You can email us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com. That's 2TWO, broadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com. And please, if you have time, do rate and review us on iTunes. It helps new listeners find our podcast. Thanks.
Can we talk about voting? Who do you want to vote for?
Grammy.
Grammy. You want to vote for Grammy?
Yeah.
Do you think Grammy should be the president?
Yeah.
Oh, why do you think she should be the president?
Because I think she can play with me.
Oh, she can play with you. That's a great reason. Okay, can you say goodbye, podcast listeners?
Goodbye, podcast listeners.
Our theme music is called Sweeter Vermouth and was composed by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. It is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Our logo was created by Matthew Weflin, expressly for Two Broads Talking Politics, and is copyright 2017. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or at twobroadstalk on Twitter. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and TuneIn. Please let us know if you have any trouble finding us.